Thank you for joining us for the Co-op Connection Podcast. We have Terry and Kevin from APS Building Services with us today, who will share some industry changes and updates with you. You will also learn what sets them apart as an approved co-op vendor. So crank up that volume as we connect you with co-op resources.
All right, well, excited to have you two with us today. And first I want to ask you a question, Kevin. Can you briefly walk us through your career path and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. First, we're pleased to be here. Thank you for having us. Definitely appreciate the opportunity. So I started with APS Building Services. Well, actually, I started with a company called Air Performance Service roughly about 14 years ago, going on 15 years. At that time, we started in 1983 in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, and we continue to grow in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. We were some of the industry leaders on flat fans. These are larger industrial fans and commercial building fans, and we were picking up, so we were the factory certified technicians in the state of Texas for FLAC. So we were picking up a lot more work in Houston, and we just kind of naturally got drugged down here from Dallas and in Fort Worth. So early 2000s, we started a Houston office, and that's the branch I went to work for. So I was employee number 12 or 13 at the time when I started back then. Since then, our Houston branch actually continued to grow. Our current owner had the option to buy. He was one of our employees up in Dallas that moved down to take over the role as general manager, and with the option to buy at some point. So early 2000s, that took place, and we rebranded as APS Building Services of Houston. Then we added a plumbing division, and we continue to grow our automation division and our service division, our mechanical division. So since we have so many divisions and adding plumbing, it was kind of hard to go air performance service, and we want your plumbing work. So that's what the APS stands for. It's the Air Performance Service. But we rebranded as APS Building Services, and we continue to grow so much that within the past 5 years, we've went back and actually purchased the mother company that we had separated from. So now we're established in Dallas, Fort Worth, here in Houston, and now natural attrition is we're kind of being drug into the San Antonio and Austin market. We handle some statewide retail customers that have locations in those areas, so we're naturally getting drug out to those areas as well. So now we're happy to say we serve pretty much the state of Texas.
There you go.
And some surrounding states.
Yeah. And I remember actually initially we brought y'all on as Air Performance.
Yeah.
And then the APS merge thing happened, and man, I tell you, it's been pretty exciting to see the growth for sure.
It's definitely been fun. We've drank through a lot of water hoses over the years. We sustained over 400% growth for almost 4 years straight, where now our employee base is just over 270 employees. So we've grown a little bit over the past decade, I would say.
All right, and Terry, question for you. I know that you're out in the field a lot, so what are some of the most common issues that you encounter while being out in the field?
The biggest thing that we encounter is people not having a preventative maintenance program on site, thinking that they can handle it on call basis and everything else, which turns into a lot more expense for them by not having those kind of programs. Electrical components going bad that they don't see that blow things up. Just a lot of different issues. Mainly the maintenance program, people not having those in place lead to a lot of unexpected expenses for our customers.
Okay. Now, kind of going along with that, I guess, what are some top maintenance tips that you would give an organization or even a homeowner to ensure that their HVAC systems will run efficiently and that they'll get the most life out of it?
Well, I definitely would say the top three I would make sure I stay on top of to make sure my system is running. Is something I do at my house. I know Terry does at his house, and all our technicians is one, you want to make sure you're replacing your filters at least quarterly. If you have a family like I have, where I have dogs and I have kids in and out, and they're opening the doors a lot, I actually change my house filters once a month. Just because the doors are open so much and you're getting those particulates in. If we can capture those particulates before they make it to the evaporator coil, it's a lot better for us, right? It stops impact of our coils. It allows better airflow. The heat transfer rate is what it's supposed to be. The second thing I would watch and make sure I keep an eye on is my condenser coils. That's at your house on your split system. You have an evaporator in your attic, and you'll have a condenser outside. That condenser outside, we want to make sure it's clear, that we don't have a lot of vegetation growing around it, especially during the summertime. You either when you're mowing your yard or your lawn maintenance crews they're mowing, I can almost guarantee your AC is running at this moment too. So when they're weed eating that stuff, that grass gets impacted on those coils. We're in cottonwood season. I know a lot of churches love a lot of big trees around the churches, but with that comes an heightened sense that you need to keep those coils even more clean, because cottonwood trees get sucked on the coils. That's going to affect our heat transfer rate as well. And when I say it affects our heat transfer rate, I also mean that means you're going to have a larger electricity bill, because it is going to affect the efficiency of the unit, how long it's running, and how fast it can remove the heat from your house. Okay. The third thing would be insulation, especially at churches where we have 9 or 10 different condensers in a small area. There's a lot of heat in that area. They're getting cooked by the sun, and I think there's this idea that insulation should last as long as the equipment, and it just doesn't. It gets cooked in the sun. The Armaflex, this stuff if it's at your house, you can buy the stuff at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's relatively cheap for 4 or 5 feet of it, but keeping that the line insulated, that's the thicker line outside. If you don't, you're losing cooling capacity, because you're losing that cooling to the heat transfer outside. So we want to make sure that cold liquid gets all the way back up to the AC evaporator inside, and you're getting good cold transfer. So those would be the 3 things that I mainly keep an eye on.
Okay. And so what about with like troubleshooting? So, I'm sure that there's common HVAC problems that the regular homeowner, even business owner, is going to experience. So what are some things that they could do to maybe do some quick troubleshooting to see, like, hey, is this something that I need to call a tech out for, or can we kind of address this ourselves?
Absolutely, call us first. I'm just kidding. And where we want to start with that is the 2 main things I check, even as a account manager when I was with a company, and going and doing that initial check on a customer to see what's going on, and see if maybe see what kind of technician we need to send out there. We have different technicians that work on airside design. We've got guys that work on split systems and rooftop units. So identifying the type of equipment that potentially has issues for us. So if you have an issue with your equipment, any kind of information you can tell your HVAC company, we'll make sure that they can help send the right guy out there, or the right technician. As far as self-checking yourself, the 2 big things that we're looking for is airflow, because to remove heat, and when we say cooling, what we're doing is removing heat. So we have to have complete air transfer and multiple times through the cooling coil upstairs to remove that heat. So if we don't have enough airflow, and common cases of this would be we haven't been changing our filters, we have a dirty evaporator, or maybe we've had a charge on a system that is causing the unit to start icing up. If that unit, what we refer to as icing up, is your evaporator coil starts to turn into a block of ice. Well, now we have a big block of ice preventing the airflow. So if your unit's freezing up, 2 ways you can see that is go outside the condenser, look at the 2 lines coming out of the back of it. One of them will have a big chunk of ice on it. And if there's ice there, I can almost guarantee you there's ice in the attic. And if you come across this situation, you can typically reach up at your air vents inside your house. And if you're feeling very, very little airflow, you probably have a restriction, or we have some ductwork that's blown apart. So that's part 1 of making sure we have good airflow. If we have good airflow and we're reaching up there and the air is a ton of air and it feels warm, then we have a cooling issue. It could be a lot of different things on the system. The quickest way to make sure, am I getting cold enough air, is what we're trying to achieve with the removal of heat is a delta T of 15 to 20 degrees. What that means is we want to take the temperature of our return air, and that's where the air gets sucked into the system by the grills. That's usually where your filters are. We want to check what is the temperature of air we're getting there. Typically that's going to be somewhere between 72 and 78 degrees, depending on how warm you keep your house or your business. What we're trying to see is a delta T, a change in temperature off of that by at least 15 to 20 degrees. That's all your AC is going to do. So really what we're trying to achieve, if we're sending 78, we're looking for air from 58 to about 60 degrees. Mm-hmm. If we're getting that out of our air conditioning system, we're doing the best it probably can. And if it's still not cooling and you've got good airflow and we've got good cooling, then we probably have an air side design issue. There's some sort of other heat load that's contributing to the factor. Maybe the unit's undersized. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was a change in, we added a new area to the church. Maybe they changed some ductwork and moved a grill. So that's where we would start looking at air side design. So those are pretty much the easiest way to see if you've got enough cooling is, do I have enough air moving and is it cold enough? And if you don't have those two things, you're going to see the temperature slowly rise in your space.
Gotcha.
And to add to Kevin's, there is also could have leaks where refrigerant is leaking out, and they can see that on the coils on the outside. If they go out and it looks like oil spots, they can visualize that as per your question. What can they be looking for? They can see the oil spots on there. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, they've got a leak somewhere within the system. That's where they call us to perform a leak search, repair a leak search, and move on.
Okay. What are significant changes that you've seen in the HVAC industry over the past decade?
I would say the main one that I've seen, well, there's two actually. The primary one I see is the evolution of electronics and applications. Those have helped BAS, which is Building Automation Systems, and EMS, Energy Management Systems in buildings. It's made it a lot more affordable for different level customers. Mm-hmm. It's not just the big buildings that have BAS systems. What a BAS system does, it allows you to see the temperatures of your equipment. You can monitor your stuff remotely. You can bring them on and off. I always say it's like adding an X-ray system to your building system, because you're going to get alerts and you're going to get information that typically we're relying on someone to tell us, hey, it's hot over there, or someone to report a change. This that gives you a visual observation. And when they first came out, I think the components were extremely expensive. And you had to be technical on knowing how to use it and navigate through the systems. As we've seen applications change over the past decade, building automation systems are extremely user-friendly on the back end. They can be super complicated, as complicated as we want to make them, but still user-friendly. So there's a lot more information we can gain from these systems. And they've started integrating these systems into rooftop units and split systems to be able to provide technicians like ourselves more information as soon as we get on site. So that way when we arrive, we're able to address and figure out what the problem is in a quicker manner than just coming in blindly and starting our normal test. A lot of times there's that reporting you get on the front end, which just speeds up that service call, which translation saves you on labor cost and money when we're out there. The second thing, the big change, and our industry doesn't change a lot, because air conditioning and the process of air conditioning, we've pretty much locked it down, and the physics of that process aren't really going to change. The big part we see that does change is the different types of refrigerant we're using. We're using refrigerants to expand and contract to remove that heat in that process through the refrigeration cycle. And I would think everybody remembers R22. I did a presentation with Church Co-op at the expo, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, because we were talking about the big thing happening. Then was the phase out of R22. Yeah. It was the most widely used refrigerant, especially in residential systems. And so they changed to R410A, which was a more efficient, it was in an effort to be more efficient and help unit run times and everything. But what we've seen is that there's been treaties signed that they're really attacking HFCs. And what those are in refrigerants is hydrofluorocarbons. Hydrofluorocarbons have been deemed as ozone depleting substances. So in an effort to help the earth, we have treaties in place that all the nations are going to try to start eliminating hydrofluorocarbons out of the refrigeration process. So now the next one you're going to see, and it's been widely used and was a replacement of R22, is R410. R410 is now going to be obsolete, and manufacturers have till January 1st, 2025. So we only have about 6 more months that they can produce R410 equipment. Now there will be a 3-year pass-through that they allow them to continue selling equipment that's already pre-manufactured before that date. So you'll still have some parts and products. The one thing I would note with this change from R410 to the newer refrigerants, what we're seeing is more than likely you're looking at a complete system change out.
Wow.
Because you're not going to just be able to replace the condenser and it work with R410A evaporator. There's going to be you're going to have to run new copper, different line sets because they work at different pressures.
Gotcha.
So that's something. It's not happening next year, but it's definitely if you're at a church or even at your home. We know budgeting is a big thing, both professionally and at home. It's definitely something I would start paying attention to, because just like R22, what you're going to see is the price of refrigerant and parts for those units, since they're no longer manufacturing them, are going to become more and more scarce, and so the price of that is going to continue to rise. Our current rate is on R22 that we still have some systems in place that are using R22, and that current rate is fluctuating anywhere from $150 to $180 a pound per pound of refrigerant. So it can get quite costly, especially if you're a church and you have large split systems, like your 25-ton split systems. That those hold a lot of refrigerant. So it's definitely worth keeping in your budget and your knowledge, knowing that this is a reality. It is happening, and at some point you might be replacing that unit, but before you're ready to replace the whole system.
Kevin, you had mentioned some areas of different levels of technicians and things like that, but this could be for you, Terry. What are some things that you guys implement at APS as far as training and what's required of your techs?
Yeah, you're correct. There are many different levels of technicians as we hire, and skill levels involved, because you have chillers, you have boilers, you have unitary like rooftop units, split systems, at all these properties for the most part. So there does have to be a skill level for each one of those pieces of equipment, and we try to match up our technicians. That's why when we come out to do a survey or something, it's very important for us to get all the equipment listed, model, serial numbers, so that when you call in, you're referencing the correct material so that we are sending you the correct technician. In regards to training those technicians, we use the manufacturers to come in and do training on updates to their equipment, updates to their service techniques of what they do, and we also have probably over 100 years of service managers available that do in-house training. Actually, to the point where they're doing it on Saturdays during the winter, so it does not affect call levels, people missing service, or we don't have technicians available that are in training. We can do that on Saturday on their time, so they can learn and move up levels. Because you leave a guy in just treating rooftop units, he's not going to be there very long. But if we're graduating him to a chiller, getting him chiller training and things like that, it gives us another person for that big equipment to service, plus he's getting an upgrade to his position, which has helped, I would say, APS turnover rate immensely, because we do those kind of things. We're not one to say, you're going to do rooftops, 15 years later you're going to still be doing the same rooftop. We don't want that. We want guys moving forward at all times and learning different work ethics, different work equipment, and that keeps them moving. That keeps that brain going.
That's good.
I would say it's a big contributing factor to our success is our employee retention. The skilled tradesman is kind of a dying breed. It's really sad right now. I mean, if you're a young person listening to this now, like, it is a trade that I would definitely consider. The talent pool is getting smaller, therefore these guys are getting paid more and more and more for their talent base, and because of that, and because of the fact that we try to train from within and really help promote and grow employees and technicians at a different level. I mean, Terry started with the company just about 5 years ago. He was inside sales. Now he's an outside account manager. I started as account manager, moved into director of marketing, and then into vice president of sales and marketing, and vice president of special projects. So we have a history of trying to take our skilled tradesmen and make them better. And quite honestly, we see them do that, and they self-police that more than we would try to put systems and processes in place, because they're eager to learn, and we have guys that are eager to teach, which is huge. When Terry mentioned it, we have over 100 years of experience between our 5 service managers, and all of them have been there 20 to 25 years within the industry. So we've got everything from refrigeration to centrifugal chillers. We have a knowledge base, and it's actually posted all on a giant wall behind our service technicians in their office. It's every technician's listed, what level they're at, and what level they're trying to achieve, and what do they need to do to make those next steps. And so I think they self-police each other very well. I think there's a little bit of competitive spirit within it. Yeah. That, hey, I want to hurry up and make it to the next level. Right. And because of that, we pay your pay increases the more you know, the more valuable you are in the industry. So we try to do everything we can to grow employees from within, and that way they're part of what we're growing here at APS. We look at it as we don't take care of 270 employees. We look at it as we take care of 270 families, and we have employees that buy into that that mentality too. So everybody within the company I see is always striving to go to that next level, and it's amazing to see. And because of that, we do have some of the best employee retention in the industry. We have a lot of employees that have left and have come back and go, it's just not quite the same elsewhere. So.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, when a company is going to invest in their employees, then like you were saying, the employee has buy-in. They want to stay for the long haul, and so that's great all around. So retention with employees and training them up is fantastic for an organization. Now, one thing I'm curious on is, how do you stay competitive in a saturated and rapidly evolving industry?
One simple word: service.
There you go.
We, from top management all the way down, we're not just an HVAC company, we're a service company. Everything we do is to provide service, communicate, and just let our customers know what is going on with their property and why they've invested in us to take care of it. So,
I'd say, to add to that, absolutely, to Terry hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't want to give everybody our secret sauce out there, but I mean, it really is. And I hate to dumb it down to that, but service is the lifeblood that flows through all organizations. Everybody within APS believes that. We believe in that communication with our customers. I think we're starting to see times have shifted a little bit, especially through COVID times, supply chain issues that we've seen. There was a period in time over the past decade that we really went into a very competitive market. We're in the world's largest HVAC market here in Houston and in Texas. So we do have an immense amount of competition. But what we're starting to see is there was a buying value on lowest price wins, lowest price. So, we got to attack the bottom line. I think when everybody started going remotely, and when we see the trends of average employee retention for a lot of markets, this includes your facility managers and your on-site engineers, is about 2 years. So what we've seen with this trend of short-term employment with employees, you don't have the guys that have been with the property or with the church for 10, 15 years managing the system. He's been there since it was installed. He knows all the history. So we've seen a reliance on making sure that you're having good vendor-partner relationships, that you don't just have a vendor that's going to show up if I have an emergency call, but is he going to be able to help me remember what we did 3 years ago? Do they have good systems of keeping the information? And we've really become a vault for a lot of commercial properties and churches that have had high turnover rate, because they hire a new employee, they come in and they're needing this information. They're able to call us, and a lot of times we have more information on the building than they do. Or that they've kept in their records. It's the same thing that we've provided to them. It's just within our system we're able to keep it organized, and so we're really seeing a trend set that a lot more people are buying on relationship now. It's not always the lowest dollar. They're starting to see that relationship value. Yes, this company might cost me a little bit more money, but they have the knowledge. They're my industry expert. They help me with training. They help me training my new employees. This is all stuff that we've learned. That's what makes APS. We want to become someone's, trusted solution turnkey provider, where when you have an issue, you're going to call us. If it's not something within our wheelhouse, we've got industry partners to recommend to you or help you with. Really, we want to become an allied partner with you, because without your business, we don't run a company, and without us, you're kind of just getting what you're paying for. And so we've always tried to elevate that to the next level and being able to provide more than just HVAC service or more than a plumbing service, but how can we help be a better partner with our customers? What do we wish somebody would help us with?
Yeah.
And just to what he said there, so there's a lot of that's more important now than price. They want to know they're being taken care of and you're looking out for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, thinking back from 2020 on to now with the whole supply chain issues. Yeah, I think the biggest part of overcoming that dilemma was relationships. Building the relationships with the people that kept them with you. And, everybody was dealing with a supply chain issue, but are they willing to stick with you and you help them, endure it? I think that's definitely something that's commendable. Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, that when the supply chains are the way they are, you've got to be honest about it. And we learned that. You start trying to play with dates or play with this or hopefully.
Right.
You've got to be concrete, and we've got to do, and I think that's one thing at APS we've learned is it is what it is, and if you can find another avenue, it will help too. But we're looking for the shortest turnaround on getting things in too.
Sure.
We know you need it.
Right. And you want to get it done.
We got to get it done.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So last question, I guess, would be, now that our members are watching this and hearing from y'all, what are some of the benefits that they can receive from having the relationship with you guys as co-op members?
We believe in service. We believe in shooting you straight. Unfortunately, we don't have the best job. We're not in the habit of being the guys that get to give good news all the time. Usually, if you're talking to one of us, it's someone's hot on the other end. Yeah. Or you're talking to us because you have a system failure, you have an issue. We don't get a lot of, hey, how's it going today? But that's what we're there for. We're there to help you navigate those tough times as best as possible, because we understand what you're going through. We understand that you either have a congregation or you have a business with tenants that they're struggling when it's hot and no one's happy. So we try to do the best we can to make sure that we manage expectations the best we can, and just do the best work we can and make sure that you're informed so you can make the best decisions you can for your organization.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Co-op Connection Podcast. For more information about the Co-op, APS Building Services, or other resources available to our members, please visit our website, www.churchcoop.org.